Neil, do you want to start us off?
Sure. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Neil Agrawal. I am a senior aerospace engineering major, like Kushbu mentioned, on the air track. As far as commitments and what I'm doing, I'll talk about it hopefully a little more during the panel, but I am currently an intern at the Federal Aviation Administration, and I'm the president of our University of Maryland's Model UN team. So really excited that you guys are here today, and really excited to share some of my experiences through my 4 years here at Maryland. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Anusha Dixit. I'm a senior in aerospace engineering on the space track. I'll also go into like my commitments and everything a little more in detail later. But I'm vice president of UMD WIAA. I'm a TA for the Introductory Aerospace profession class, and I do some research as well. I've had some internships, 2 at NASA and 1 at BAE Systems. Really excited to talk with you guys today.
Hi, I'm Ella. I'm Grishella, but you guys can call me Ella. I'm a first-year PhD student here at Maryland as well. I'm currently doing research for Dr. Sedgwick. I did my undergrad also at Maryland, did space track. I'm excited to talk about a little bit about my research and how my undergrad years went by. And yeah, I also TA'd for propulsion and dynamics for Dr. Paley.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm a junior, and I guess some of the things I've done is, so I've been involved with the High Altitude Balloon Club here, run by Dr. Bowden. I've also been a TA for ENA E100, which was last year for the Introduction to Aerospace course. And I interned at Northrop Grumman this past summer.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I am a sophomore. Some of the things I'm involved with are WIAA. I'm the undergrad liaison on the board, and I'm also in UMD's new CubeSat.
Okay, cool. So Rachel said, if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll get to them. For now, I'm just going to ask some generic questions and we'll start from there. Okay, so what inspired or motivated you to major in aerospace engineering?
I can answer this one. All right, I'll take it. So, so I've been friends with Rachel and Kushbu and Anusha for a pretty long time, and they'll always tell you that like I've been obsessed with airplanes since I joined the program. I think I'm the kind of guy who looks up at an airplane and I'll tell you where it's going, what kind of plane it is. I mean, I'm obsessed with airplanes, and I knew since like day one I wanted to do aerospace engineering. So for me, it was a pretty easy choice, actually. I think there are a lot of people who have a lot of different experiences. They're not really sure which major they're doing, but if you like airplanes, you like rockets, I think this is definitely a great program for you.
I think what motivated my choice for aerospace engineering was definitely movies. For example, it'd be Interstellar. It's like my all-time favorite. But what really made me choose aerospace is in high school, I had to do a research argument about why space travel should be funded, and I was a pro space travel at the time. So I got a little bit more exposure about what aerospace was really about, or what space exploration was about. So ever since then, I've been interested and was headed towards that direction back then.
Yeah, so I guess I got my interest in aerospace from just being a kid. I would always just look up at the stars with my dad and stuff on clear nights. For a while, I really wanted to go into more astronomy, but then I happened to be in Texas for something with dance, and we went to the Houston NASA Center out there, Johnson, and I really just fell in love with the idea of getting to make something that would go to the stars I always looked at and contribute to like what we know about the universe. So that was how I got into aerospace.
Yeah, I think just like Maddie said, I was also really interested in like astronomy and like astrophysics. And that was kind of like my original trajectory. But then I kind of realized I wanted to get involved with like more of like a hands-on approach to space flight. So then aerospace engineering was kind of like a good combination of both of those of my interests.
I feel like the way that I kind of chose aerospace was a little bit different, just in the way that I wasn't necessarily always obsessed with like space, which I am like I'm gonna choose space track. But like I was not one of those people who like kind of grew up like loving space and like loving the idea of it. But for me, just kind of when it came down to it, I guess like senior year having to choose like which major to go into, like into college and everything, um, I always just kind of like was drawn towards like the more mathy and like engineering side of thing. And I did a engineering camp here, like at the University of Maryland for a summer for like 1 week. And it just introduced you to all the different kinds of engineering. And that's honestly where I kind of picked up like, oh, aerospace seems cool because I've never actually like had heard of it before. And I did like space and everything, but it definitely kind of sparked my interest more, like being a part of the classes here. Like it was never a huge, like I love space from childhood, but now like I'm definitely like a lot more of a fan of it and everything. And like I really am happy with choosing the track that I did.
Awesome. So I guess that leads into my next question is, what advice would you give to students who aren't yet sure if aerospace engineering is right for them?
I guess I could answer this question too. I would say at least after finishing my undergrad here at Maryland, one thing I like to tell some students is like don't feel discouraged after like a couple like failures or whatnot, because I'm not like a 4.0 student, but definitely towards the end it gets better, and the amount of like knowledge and skills you get out of certain classes is like it's challenging but rewarding kind of feeling. Like that's always like what I've felt with like how the classes go about, and just like networking events and talking to your teachers, and sort of like having that certain experiences like internship, TAs, or co-ops, and so on and so forth. Like, yeah.
And I'll add to that as well. I mean, aerospace engineering, I think a lot of people see that as a very specialized kind of subject, but the way they do it at the University of Maryland, the way they structure the courses, it's actually very flexible. So with that, I think up until your third semester, they really try to get you at kind of access to all the different types of tracks. So they really try to get you integrated with space track stuff and really get you integrated with some air track stuff. And at the end of the 3 semesters, if you decide you hate it, it's really not for you, you can also switch to another engineering field, because the way they've designed it is that it is very compatible with other engineering fields. So you can easily do mechanical engineering, you can do computer engineering, electrical engineering, and for the most part, you can actually still graduate within 4 years. So it's one of those programs where if you stick with it long enough, I think the majority of people who are still with it realize they really like it. And hopefully that's kind of things like you guys are doing right now, right? Where you're getting involved in these panels. Hopefully, you guys have that same passion as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like, if you're not sure if aerospace is the right track for you, and if you're not sure if it's exactly what you want to do, I'd say it definitely would not hurt, especially if, like Neil said, if you're in your first year or like your first 3 semesters, like it wouldn't hurt to try out and just get involved with as many things as you can, and then like you'll really realize if you like it or not. And I think that like for most of you, if you're tuning into this panel, you're obviously at least a little bit interested in like aerospace and everything. And so I just think it definitely like does not hurt to try, just get involved. And if it turns out that you don't like it, then that's okay. Like you can always switch and it won't be a big deal.
I think definitely, yeah, like getting involved is the biggest thing, or the best thing you can do. I think also, oh, sorry. I think also like just like investigating kind of like what kind of research is being done in aerospace. Like as high schoolers, you can just Google like what's kind of going on in the field of aerospace, and also just like getting involved with like competitions and everything, because I think the real engineering that that aerospace engineering should be isn't always present in your classes. Like the classes end up kind of being, I mean, they're obviously very interesting, but you don't get to see kind of what like building a rocket exactly is like. You can get involved with a lot of projects and competitions that will give you more of that engineering experience. So really like getting that like thorough kind of understanding of what it means to be in aerospace engineering is really important.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add, like just getting in, sorry, just getting involved in like other clubs that might be outside of your major. I mean, engineering is pretty broad where you can apply your skills anywhere. So it doesn't hurt to check out other things, like, especially once you get to the university level, like trying out different clubs and just seeing if maybe something else catches your interest, or even if you swing from air to space track, if you're in a different club.
Okay, Ella, did you have anything else to add to that, or?
Oh, I was actually just going to add on to like pretty much what Maddie said. Like aerospace actually has a lot of like subdivided like sub teams as well. Meaning if you did end up like choosing aerospace, but towards the end you're almost done with your, let's say, your bachelor's, but you're unsure of like what to do. There are so many applications to like everything you've learned. So like I said, just don't feel discouraged by like how much you get done or how you feel about the classes, because there are many opportunities available there. It's just kind of like finding what's right for you.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So now I guess we're going to go into more of like commitments. So what are you all involved in outside of school, and how do you balance your time between school and these commitments?
I can
Go again. Oh,
sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I can start with this one. Like I said before, I serve on the WIAA board. I am a software sub-team member on our new like CubeSat club here on campus. And I'm also doing research through my honors college. I'll get more into the research later, but I don't really have the strictest time management plan, especially with everything being online. Like I'm sure you guys are feeling, time doesn't feel like it exists. During the day, I pretty much just sit and get as much done as I can with my classes. And if I feel like things are going okay and I feel like I'll meet deadlines and I'm making progress, I'll kind of switch to doing stuff for my extracurriculars, whether that's like research for the CubeSat, like, or just getting things done that I need to do for the research that my team is doing. I haven't really ever set a strict deadline on myself of like stop working at this time. It's more just like if I feel confident that I got something done today, I'll move on to something else.
sorry. This is like actually something I feel very passionate about, is time management. Actually throughout my undergrad years, I like worked full time as my last two as a waitress, but my last 2 years I like sort of like worked my way up to be a bartender. So imagine doing like controls and propulsion and like working like 30-40 hours a week. Yeah. But something that I was very good at, because I sort of like grew up by myself, I came to this country and everything, is to sort of just like have that discipline with yourself. I did play soccer for my community college the first 2 years, so I was still able to have like that extracurricular and academics at the same time. I would say like what Maddie was saying, it's like, kind of like setting a strict deadline. But for me, I think what really helped me the most is sort of just like creating like um, a weekly plan or like a day-to-day plan. As long as you sort of realize your strengths or where you want to, which class maybe you want to prioritize or which activity you want to prioritize. But, and eating healthy is very important. Hopefully getting enough sleep. I didn't get a lot of it, but now I am, and it's been great. So it's like a lot of, it's not until now where I've started to like look back and realize a lot of the things that maybe I could have changed or sort of realized. And so I've been more involved, let's say, with WIAA. I've been receiving all these emails, and I've just been more like responsive about it, as well as like, you know, mentoring other students, whether they're in high school or undergrads or transfer students. You know, those are kind of the things that I struggled the most throughout my undergrad, and it's something I really like to help a lot of students with.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what everyone has said so far. So like you'll hear it like 1,000 times that, you know, time management is like the biggest key when it comes to anything. And I would say one thing that's really important is, so I've, at least for me, like my personal experience was that freshman year, first year was hardest, because that's kind of when you're transitioning from high school to college, and it's a completely new environment. And there's like all these overwhelming, like there's new people and new like classes, and it's just like really a lot. And so if that's kind of you right now, like I definitely, like it's okay, like it'll get easier, like you'll learn how you, like you will learn more about yourself and how like yourself works and everything. And then also I would say that a big thing that I would stress is really try not to like overdo it, because I think that's something that I kind of ran into freshman year, was like there were so many opportunities, like so much gets thrown at you, like you can do this club and you can do this lab and like all this stuff, and like you kind of want to do everything, but like you kind of like just like make sure you know your own limits, and so that you're not like over scheduling yourself to the point where you're like really stressed about everything, because like that doesn't help you at all, and like it'll just make your life a lot harder. And so like obviously like, you know, get involved with like everything that you want to do, but like just know your own limits of like, okay, like maybe I should choose one of these two clubs so that I don't have, you know, like 5 meetings back to back on one day. Like, so just like, I would just like really like say that's a really important point, is just, you know, make sure you're not over like burning yourself out with all this stuff.
I'll definitely echo what Kelly said. So as I mentioned, I mean, this is my first year also working part-time as a student, or I guess full-time student, but also part-time employee, right? And I think something the virtual environment has really taught us is sometimes you just need to understand that you need to step away from everything, right? Don't overextend yourself. I think a lot of students, I definitely did that my first year. Because like she said, there's so many different opportunities, and you know, you just got to step back a minute, reanalyze what your priorities are, and then get to work. And I think, and even when we shift back into that in-person classroom experience, you'll really pick up how to do that pretty quickly, because otherwise it can be difficult, but it is one of those skills that's very important that I think everyone should be able to learn at some point.
Yeah, just to like echo what everyone else has said, I just think it's really important to like find balance between like meeting all your like commitments and like also being okay yourself, like eating on time and sleeping enough. It's kind of it feels almost impossible, but I think with enough like trade out, like, you know, sacrificing something on occasion, it's you kind of get in the habit of, you figure out like how you like to do things best, like Kelly was saying, and you kind of figure out how you want things to work for you. That really, like getting that rhythm is kind of, I think, the biggest thing.
I would also just add really quick, like I also really recommend not making all of your commitment academic. Like find things like whether it's social or just like sports or like just something that you enjoy personally that's not involved with academics to do as well. So like, yeah.
Yeah, I also agree with that. You get best of both worlds. You get the academic side, then you get your relief with your social side. So that's really important. Okay, so now we're going to go into all these research the panelists have been talking about. So can you all talk about your research, if you're involved, and how you might have got involved with your respective labs?
Okay, I can start this one off again. So while I'm not really involved in any research now, for the first two and a half years at my time at Maryland, I did work for our university wind tunnel as a student CAD designer. And I guess how I got involved with it is a pretty funny story. I remember one night freshman year, I was just like arguing with my mom, and she's like, "You're not finding any internships and jobs for the summer." And just to spite her, I looked at the university aerospace engineering faculty list, picked off 5 random emails, sent them out with as a small cover letter. And I did that out of spite. I was like, "Listen, mom, don't say anything. Shut up." I sent the emails that were good. 2 days later, I got an email back saying, "Hey, do you want to have a kind of like a small interview, get to know you? We have an opening as a CAD designer." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that actually worked." So I guess the main takeaway from that is, even as a freshman, when you guys are coming in for the first year, professors are so willing to take you on as students. They really want to take you into their labs. And I think the other students on here who have done research experience, more thorough research experience, they'll tell you that they're always very welcoming to new students and showing them kind of what they do and what their work is involved with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, with professors being very welcoming, and especially the main thing that I've been involved with research-wise is the High Altitude Balloon Club run by Dr. Bowden. And if any of you know who Dr. Bowden is, you know how welcoming she is. She's such a huge proponent of building a aerospace community. That's kind of her main goal, is she wants everyone to be friends and wants everyone to get along. So the way I got involved with the actual research though was from ENAE 100. So I don't know how they're running it this semester, but you used to have to do a research project as a part of the class, and so I chose the balloon project. And so that was just really kind of workshops in a way for a whole semester, but it basically just introduced me to the club in general and what they did. And then I just kind of kept with it with the next semesters, and I became a mentor for the new freshmen the next year, to help them with the workshops. And so basically what they do is I just kind of just tagged along and kept up with it after kind of getting introduced to them from ENA 100. And Dr. Bowden was great with getting people involved and keeping them on and everything.
I guess I could. So actually, I got involved with research, which is not kind of like what Neil was talking about. It's a little bit of a funny story. I was actually I took the space propulsion class with Dr. Sedgwick, and that semester I think I was job hunting and applying for jobs, and I didn't plan on going to grad school because I was I just want to leave school kind of thing. But what ended up happening was that I have a very good relationship with Dr. Sedgwick as a student to teacher kind of thing. I took the optional final just to get an A+, not that I was failing or anything. I was borderline A- to A+. And I was I'll take the optional final. But I had to take it separately because of work conflict. And I took the exam. He graded it right in front of me. So, I was a little nervous there. And then we talked. He got to know me more personally as a student. It was just a more casual conversation. And then after getting to know my background, he sort of just felt I want you to be in my lab. And next thing I know, he wasn't accepting any more applicants. I had to just submit all the paperwork within 2 weeks or so before. And yeah, and then now I'm working on one of his newer projects called Fusion Plasma Propulsion System. And, we just received a grant for it. So it's been going really great.
So I have been working in the planetary surfaces and spacecraft lab under Dr. Hartzell for the last year. I'm researching how granular particles come together to form asteroids, basically, just with a little experimental thing. But the way that I kind of got involved was just I kind of looked through the aerospace faculty and like saw like which professors kind of seem to have like interesting research and reached out to them. Kind of boring, but
Yeah, so I'm in one of the honors colleges on campus called Gemstone. And I didn't really have to do much reaching out to get involved in a research project. The whole idea of the college is to put kids in this cohort like on different teams for like a 3-year project. So I mean, I got lucky in the fact that I am in a program where I will have research, but I actually was a project, I proposed the project actually, and it was because of my experience in ENA 100, kind of like Kelly was talking about, where like I worked with Dr. Aiken in the space systems lab and got to know him a bit. And when it came time to propose a project for my Gemstone cohort, I reached out to him and asked if he had anything that he wanted to work on. And he reached out back to me and gave me a project idea. So I went with that. And now we have like a team of 11 people and we're working with him right now virtually. But yeah, so it was through ENA 100 that I got to propose this project.
Yeah, and for those of you who might not know, ENA 100 is a introductory level class to aerospace engineering where you're just given the basic overview of the major, and that involves like speakers that come in from different industry to talk about it, and just a whole project, a research project that you have to do where you're like matched with a mentor from someone in faculty or somewhere, and they just give you a project that you work on for the whole of the semester. So that's where a lot of people got involved with their research. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for the panelists at all, like it can be targeted for a specific panelist if you want, feel free to put in the chat, or if you want, you can unmute yourself now and let us know. But yeah, is there anybody? Okay, if not, we're just going to move on to the next question. So, what is something you wish you knew as an incoming freshman in aerospace engineering? It could just be like a study tip, a specific class recommendation, like to like a technical club or non-technical club, or just something you wish you knew as a freshman in aerospace engineering.
Oops, sorry. This is kind of off like academically, I guess, but I would say like one major thing is really, especially in like ENAE 100, like the because I think that's the only like specific aerospace course you would take as a freshman. But really like try and like talk to people around you, like your classmates and stuff, and like make friends. I guess in a way, because it's really nice, like kind of moving forward with your years and everything, and like all your classes having like a solid group of people that you can like turn to, and like either like study with or just like be social with, just like anything like that. I would say it's just like, and everyone, especially like freshman year, everyone's so like friendly and nice, and it's just like everyone's really like trying to make friends. So I would definitely just like reach out to people, just like talk to people, and make a little group.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Kelly was just saying. Like, I'm just a sophomore, so I haven't really gotten into the aero specific courses yet. And because my semester went online last spring, I never really got the chance in person beyond my small group at ENA 100 to get to know other people in my cohort. So like, definitely if I could go back to ENA 100, I would have talked to more of those people. So like, I definitely recommend getting to know your cohort and just anyone in any of your classes. You never know who your best friend might be, or if they're sitting next to you in your Chem 135 lecture or something. Like, definitely talking to your classmates.
100% speaking from personal experience. I mean, when my first 2 years at Maryland, my grades were not great because mainly I was studying by myself and I didn't know how to actually study properly. I didn't know how to take tests properly. But then that next year, I actually formed a really, really great study group with some really smart people. 3 of them are on this call right now. And I mean, I'll tell you, my grades have improved so much. I mean, they've really taught me how to study. They've really challenged me in actually learning the material more. And, all the introductory classes do such a great effort to get you to, learn your students more or learn kind of, get to know your peers better. So definitely take advantage of those opportunities. And I can't stress enough, try to join or create a study group because it goes a long way, definitely throughout your 4 years in college.
This is kind of in a different vein of things, but there's a lot of pressure to kind of find your thing as soon as you start college, and you jump in freshman year and you the first thing that you get involved with is your thing. But it's okay to try different things, rotate between clubs and organizations that you think you would want to be part of, and if you realize suddenly that something you don't really enjoy something as much as you thought you would, it's okay to switch to something else. That is fine. Taking your time to kind of find your interest and see what you enjoy is fine. I think, yeah, taking the time to do that is really important.
I would say my scheduling for my undergrad's very different. I started as a dual enrolled student, so I was still in high school when I first started. And I sort of took my technical courses first rather than my gen eds. So it's sort of pushed back. I would say the one thing I wish that I knew as a freshman was, this might be weird, but was to find a good advisor. I had an advisor as a freshman who told me that I cannot be an engineer and play sports and work. And it was very discouraging at first. But the minute I switched advisors to someone who sort of know life in general, I felt like my life progressed a lot better. Just having a good advisor who can, one, write your letters of recommendation, sort of direct you to provide you proper resources for whatever you need, whether it's personal, academic, sports, or clubs, anything, as well as kind of learning how to also just network. I want to say that was the most helpful thing I got out of it with my new advisor that I got, was learning how to network with other people as well, and learning how to reach out.
Yeah, and if I'm allowed to, I would just like to add that something I wish I knew is just to try new things, because coming into college, I stuck with the same things I did in high school. I used to dance, so in college, I stuck to that. And I really wish I had tried something new, like a new style of dance, or trying to join a new club that I might not be familiar with. That's something I wish. And it's not until now, senior year, when I realized, oh, I've lost 3 years of when I could have really had the chance to try new things, because after this year, it gets harder too. It's not impossible, but it's harder. So really take your chance in college to do that. Okay, so moving on, I think. So what are some of the classes you are currently taking?
If I can interrupt you, there are also 2 questions in the chat right now as well.
Sure. Okay. So someone asked, because a lot of internships and experiences require some level of collegiate experience, how would you recommend getting involved with research experience or internships as a high school student?
Actually, I'm helping my younger brother out with this. Sorry, I actually have to go soon. That's why I'm sort of just answering very quickly. But one thing I help my brother with is sort of getting involved with dual enrollment stuff, where you can sort of get a little bit of college exposure as well as taking your high school classes. Keep in mind some of the high school classes, the AP level courses, are also sort of like college level courses. Therefore, they could just be applied to both. And most high schools are actually offering these programs now. And another thing is some professors on campus, at least what I know, offer high school like maybe high school programs. I know Dr. Paley's doing that. I know Dr. Sedgwick had experience in doing that. Dr. Bowden, for example, have done something like that. Yeah, it's just like exposure is probably the biggest thing, knowing who to ask and just kind of like, don't be afraid to like reach out and just ask the question, because you never know who gets to help you out.
Okay, does anybody have anything else to add about that?
This is kind of like a long shot, but you can actually reach out to professors. Like, it depends on professors, because a lot of them don't check their email. But you can reach out to professors at like campuses, at like any college campus near where you guys are. If you're interested in like what they're researching, they don't mind. I mean, it depends on the professor, but if they see that you're interested, then they might have like kind of an opportunity for you to just come to their lab and see how everything works. So that's definitely like, it's not as much of a long shot as you might think. So I think that's definitely like an avenue worth considering.
And just something to add, definitely being involved in different like technical clubs, even like as a high school student, does go a long way. Like getting involved maybe in like your robotics team, or if you're in some sort of engineering related club, that does go a long way, especially with internships, because you have like the basic things that those internships are looking for, like management, or just like some technical skills. And it does go a long way. Okay, so
one more thing, Kushba, I just sent you a message about it, sorry. So Erica actually brought up a really great question, and it was, how do you study well? Which I think is something that's really, really hard for first-year students to understand. So I'll give you my personal tip: go to office hours. I 100% would have failed one of my classes if I didn't go to professor's office hours every single week. And I swear the only reason I passed that class is because he saw me in his office hours every Tuesday, every Thursday for the 2 hours every single week. I mean, even if you're not doing so well in the test, which I found myself doing, as long as you can show the professor that you're really trying and you're really, working hard to understand the material, they know that it's a tough course. They know that you're trying. I mean, going to office hours, showing your professor that you are trying to learn the material goes a very long way. I mean, it's very important. It's very powerful.
Any other tips for studying well, or any study tips you guys have?
This isn't necessarily related to studying, but kind of going off of what Neil said, like also going to office hours is a really good way to get to know your professor, and then for your professor to get to know you, because it's really easy to get lost in, a class of 100, 150 students. Like, they won't actually know who you are. But like, it's a really good way, like in the future, like for internships and stuff, if they need a letter of recommendation, like that professor knows you now and knows like how like committed you were to that class and everything. So like that's another kind of, I guess, pro of going to office hours.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of study tips, you kind of have to figure it out yourself sometimes. Like, sometimes the best way to study for it is just figuring out what works well for you. Like, something that works well for any one of us might not work well for you. So it's just really taking the time to figure out what helps the information sticks. Okay, so Matthew had asked, how difficult is fluid dynamics? Anyone would like to take that?
It's hard, but it comes with practice and you get used to it for sure.
kind of dynamics as well. I think, so I don't remember, ENA 301, which is one of the classes you take your junior year, it's not necessarily fluid dynamics, but it is a dynamics course. One really important thing is that all the knowledge of the course is built up on each other. So whether it's fluid dynamics, whether it's space propulsion systems, whether it's aircraft dynamics, I mean, all of that knowledge builds up. So, you know, as long as you kind of retain the knowledge from your previous courses, I think each class is hard, but it's not as hard as it would be had you just gone in point blank knowing nothing, if that helps.
Yeah, I would say like by the time you reach the point of taking like fluid dynamics, you've got courses behind you that like will supplement you in being able to understand fluid dynamics. So it's obviously it's hard, but you have the knowledge, or you can remember you can find your notes again to find the knowledge that you need to be successful.
And this also comes back to getting a study group, like struggle together. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, and then Angel asks, what are some tips as high school students to improve their grades/credits?
I'll take this one as well. I mean, feel free to add on if you'd like. So I think high school is one of those places where you develop your study skills, and then college is where you refine them even more. So as far as developing your grades and improving your grades and credits, I think really try and focus on some of the study tips that even we've shared today, whether it's study groups, whether it's meeting, you know, although your teachers don't necessarily have office hours, I'm sure with the virtual environment, they definitely do have hours where they're available for questions. Take advantage of those things. I mean, practice those now. So that way, when you get to college, and even as you're finishing out your senior or your junior year in high school, you'll end out on a really strong note. So definitely listen to some of the advice that some of the people on this panel have given, because I mean, I 100% agree with it. I think it's great advice.
Yeah, and something I guess I would also add is, even if you don't have a question per se, to still go to your professor or your teacher, like during those designated hours, and just like ask like any, like you don't need to have a specific question to seek them out, is what I'm trying to say. Like just going to them, and even if other people are having a question and you're just hearing about it, really helps, because then like you might get a different perspective to a problem that you might not have thought about, or just like being able to get some other study hacks or tips from your teacher that they might not have shared in regular classes. Okay, so then Autumn asks, where are good places to find local scholarships for high school students?
I know at least in my city, I'm from a different state completely, so I'm not sure how Maryland works, but quite a few of the high schools that are around where I live have alumni associations where they'll give scholarships. So, I mean, I think I found it through my school's website or through reaching out to the guidance counselors. Like definitely talk to them, because they should have those resources if they exist. And they would definitely have local ones for sure.
There are also a ton of organizations and clubs that operate on the collegiate level that do a ton of outreach to high school students. So the AIAA, I believe it's the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics, is a really big one that you hear at Maryland. And I know they do a ton of high school outreach, and they also run a ton of high school scholarships. So professional orgs like that, possibly even some companies. I want to say that I saw somewhere that Lockheed Martin and Northrop ran high school scholarships for students. So reaching out to big aerospace companies, aerospace organizations, it's a great way to find some scholarships for you guys to apply to college.
Awesome. So Elijah asked, do you often get frustrated at all the work? Yes. If anyone else has anything to add.
Yes, but you know, this is the part about balance. You know, you reach a point, you get frustrated with your homework or your assignment or your exam studying, and you have to like step back, you know, go for a walk, have a snack, just really like take a step back and like recenter yourself and then get back into it. I think sometimes, I know personally, like I'll try to like study for like straight like 6 hours, not move, but that doesn't actually work because you need to take breaks. You need to like take care of yourself, and then you'll be able to be successful.
Yeah, I would definitely say going off that of like balance and like kind of like taking a break and stuff. Like there's been like so many cases for me where I'll be staring at a problem and it'll be like an hour and I'm like, I have no idea how to do this, and I'll be struggling with it for like an hour and I'm like, I just don't know what I'm doing, and finally I'll give up or whatever, but then I'll come back to it later and then I'll be able to do it in like 10 minutes. You know, like sometimes your brain just gets like stuck and like you like really can't do anything, and so it's better at those points to just like walk away, like do something else instead of like struggling with something and like really getting frustrated. And then because when you come back, like a lot of times it's like your brain is like reset. I don't know how it works, but then it's like, oh my gosh, like makes sense now.
I've 100% done that, where as far as taking breaks goes, I mean, I'll be looking at a problem for an hour, struggling with it, and I'm racking my brain. It's very incredibly frustrating. I once then ordered $40 worth of McDonald's, and I ate it all, and I understood the problem, and it worked out so much better. So those are the kind of skills that you guys got to do in order to succeed, I think. McDonald's is always the answer.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. It's happened so many times, and especially with all these assignments taking sometimes hours after hours, you really need to step back sometimes and do something else. And that's where your hopefully other social clubs come into play. So Dylan asks, is it better to live on campus or off?
So I know like in these times, I guess it's a little bit different. But under like normal circumstances, I don't really know which route I should go, but under normal circumstances, I would definitely recommend like living on campus is 100% worth it. Like the experience of being on campus is like really kind of makes college what it is. I feel like personally, just because like just like academically and socially, like I really feel like it's a lot easier to like connect with people, and even from like a networking standpoint, like connecting with professors like one-on-one and everything like that. And then also just like meeting people, and like yeah, I definitely recommend living on campus, and like also being involved with like research labs and stuff is like really helpful to be on campus for, since most of the labs are on campus.
Okay. Yeah, I also would recommend living on campus, especially freshman year if you can. If like everything goes back to normal, and if you're a senior, then freshman year definitely try to live on campus so you at least meet so many people. Like I think I made so many of my friends just like the first week of college, and which I probably would not have made if I was like commuting. So we have another question of what is the ratio of young women in this program? If small, do you as young women find this difficult? How do you juggle this? I'm sure, Rachel, do you want to take this question?
Yes, so the ratio of young women in the University of Maryland Aerospace Engineering Department has increased a lot since my freshman year, at least. Right now, I believe we're up to like 23% in the incoming freshman class, which is amazing. My freshman year in Kushbu's and Anusha's and Neil's, we were at 15%. So it's increasing day by day. Yeah, Anusha, you can handle the next part of this question.
Yeah, so I think with juggling it's a little unnerving, just like especially I feel like it's walking in like to like our first aerospace class in freshman year, just like there was just like a little huddle of like all like most of the girls in the class in one corner, and everyone else was not, and it was just that was a little unnerving, but I think in like finding the people who I kind of was able to spend time with to do my homework with, and also just like the organizations like WIAA, as well as other, so the clerk school has a lot of other initiatives for women in engineering, and just kind of all those programs really help to kind of support like all of us, all the women like pursuing engineering, and especially with aerospace engineering, WIAA does a lot of kind of like enforces a lot of really cool events to help make it easier for everyone. We have like the e-mentoring program, and we've started to kind of institute this like family group program for kind of building relationships within the aerospace department. So it's definitely much more manageable than it would have been without kind of these initiatives. And obviously it's really cool to see that like the percentage is also increased to like a quarter with the freshman class, which definitely makes a difference in kind of the whole dynamic of the cohort.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten better, and we just expect this to at least keep growing. So Michael asked, what are the schedules like? So since we have almost someone from every year, I'm just gonna let, I guess, Maddie start. If Maddie, do you want to start with freshman year and sophomore year? Just like go through what type of classes you might take.
Yeah, sure. So freshman year, you would start out with like an introductory chemistry course. That's honestly like the hardest class you'll probably take your first semester, in my opinion. So you'll take chemistry, and then you'll take like one physics course as a freshman. For math, if you don't come in, like there's different levels you can come in for math, but usually you'll take calculus 1, 2, and 3 some point by the end of your sophomore year, as well as linear algebra and differential equations, which is what I'm in right now. You also take, like right now I'm also in a physics course with a lab, so I get to actually go in right now. It's kind of weird going in the buildings. Everything is one way and I don't know which way it is. And then as far as aerospace goes, it's like your first semester, like we talked about the ENA 100, where you really get to meet people and you split up in groups and do like little project things. That's like your first aerospace course. And then your spring semester of freshman year, you do like a coding class and you'll learn a little bit of MATLAB, a little bit of C++, and that's also with your aerospace cohort. And right now, as a sophomore in my first semester, I'm taking my first actual like aerospace class. I think it's called aerodynamics. I'm not sure. But it's pretty fun. I don't really know what comes next for me, like spring semester wise. I haven't gotten that far ahead in planning, but everything's been pretty cool so far. It's mostly introductory, which is cool for flexibility wise if you do switch your major. But yeah, it's mainly introductory courses right now.
I guess I can speak for junior year. So junior year is, I guess, the first year that you really start taking like solely aerospace classes. So like, as Maddie was saying, like, I think you maybe have like, but now it's, I have four, I think, like ENAE courses, and then I'm like taking one gen ed. So it's like really like you really start to specialize, which is exciting for me at least, I thought, because like I was really excited to actually learn like aerospace stuff versus like I hated like the math and everything, which is like basic math. But so like that's what I don't know. So that's exciting, and then I don't actually know. Maybe someone else can speak to this. You choose air or space track either, I don't, if it's at the end of this semester or like at the end of this semester. Yeah, at
the end of this semester. So for some clarification, the spring of your junior year is when you officially split into air versus space track.
Yes, so that happens. So I guess I should have known that because that's coming up soon. But yeah, so then that's exciting. For next semester, you like really get to specialize. If you're really into air and like you hate the space stuff, you know, like you get to do air. If you're really into space, you get the air stuff, like, you know. So yeah.
I can speak to being a senior on the air track. So going into my senior year on the air track, you take your aircraft propulsions class, which is, you know, obviously aircraft related propulsion. So turbojet versus turbofan engines, propeller engines. You take your aircraft flight dynamics course. So effectively how an airplane flies. Fun fact, it's actually part of the reason I'm starting my pilot's license this week, because I'm learning a lot about it and it's actually really cool. And as I'm sure Anusha and Kushbu and Rachel will tell you, you also take your aerospace vibrations class, which is a general class that both the air and the space track kids take. And then finally, you have your senior aerospace air track design course. So for us, it's designing a short regional cargo plane, which can carry little bits of mail from short regional hops to different airports.
Yeah, so I guess so being a senior on the space track, we kind of, the thing about air and space track is that you kind of, they're kind of like like they're like reflected basically. So like we have like space power and propulsion, where we look at have different kinds of thrusters and so on. We have the space systems design course, which is like our pre-capstone course, which is really interesting because we kind of go into all the considerations you need to take for kind of building an aerospace system. So like the cost and reliability and what it takes to kind of organize a project like that. So like from the project management perspective, it's like very different than any course we've taken before. It's just, I think it's very cool. And we're taking space navigation and guidance, which is a lot of kind of orbital dynamics, kind of finding trajectories, along with like, yeah, a lot of details of like orbital dynamics. And the final class is vibrations, which is the same class that Neil just mentioned.
Yeah, so hopefully you all have a general understanding of what classes you would be taking as an aerospace engineering major. So we're gonna have one last question. I'm gonna combine two questions kind of, and then after that we will call it a day. If you do have any other questions, feel free to put in the chat and someone will just chat message you the answer to your question. So what does life in college mean to you, and what would you say is the best part about college?
So I think the cliche is that college is all about experiences. And I'll tell you, I mean, that's very, very true, right? You come in your first year, all these different clubs, all these different classes, all these different organizations. It's really up to you to kind of pick which ones you want to take and run with. So as far as what college means to me, I mean, it's very much about building up that experience, building up the knowledge, making those connections, and finally, when you graduate, actually being able to apply them in the real world. And actually, part of what I'm doing right now is as during my work. I guess what was the second part? What is the best part about college? Yeah. So what is the best part about it? It's really just the friends. I mean, you know, like I said, 3 of them are on this call right now, and I see them more than I used to see my own roommates. So, you know, it's very fun engaging with them, speaking with them every day, doing work with them, and you know, it's a great experience. And I'm really glad that you guys are here learning more about it.
Yeah, I guess I would definitely just echo what Neil has said about like the best part of college for me is definitely just like the connections I've made to the people I've met. Like my freshman year, I lived in one of the dorms, like the high-rise dorms, and I met all of my best friends in the first week. Like they all lived on my floor, and they're still my best friends to this day. And like definitely just like having those people to like go through college with is definitely like a really great experience.
Okay, yeah. So basically echoing exactly what everyone say, like college will maybe be the best 4 years of your life if you make it such that it, like, if you really like make it feel that way, you know? So yeah, I guess that's all the questions. We're at the end of our panel. Thank you all for coming. I'm gonna hand it back to Rachel.
Like Khushbu said, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. So happy to see how many of y'all actually attended. We're grateful and thankful for you. On the screen here, we have our contact information, so feel free to connect with us on any or all of our social medias. And if you have further questions for our panelists, or if you want to learn more about WIAA and what we do on campus, and how we're reaching out to local high schools, feel free to email us at wiaterps@gmail.com. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and I'll stick around, and Khushbu and a few of the other panelists will for a few more minutes if y'all have final questions.